Commissioner Frohnberger.
Here.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Present.
Commissioner McGorty. Commissioner Mulhern.
Here.
Commissioner Winkle. Commissioner Roden.
Here.
Commissioner Haschak. All right, Commissioners Ward and Bazzani are absent. Commissioner Winkle, if he comes, would be immediately seated for Commissioner Ward. Other staff present include Executive Officer Hinman, Analyst Larkin Filer, and our legal counsel, Mr. Scott Brown.
Thank you, Clerk Meadows. Pursuant to State Executive Order N2920 pertaining to the convening of public meetings in response to the COVID-19 pandemic, effective April 5th, 2020, the Mendocino Local Agency Formation Commission meetings will be conducted via Zoom and will not be available for in-person public participation until further notice. And with that, we are now called to order. And do we have any public expression today? Any people in the waiting room? Any written comments that we need to read into the record at the appropriate time?
We have no written comments, and we have no one in the waiting room. We have one member of the public who is on the call, Mr. Slaughter from the City of Ukiah.
Okay. Does Mr. Slaughter wish to make a public comment prior to the us moving forward in the agenda?
No, Chair, no comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Slaughter. With that, we'll move to number 3, the consent agenda. And does any member, any commissioner wish to pull any items off the consent agenda today?
I had a question.
And so a question, go ahead and ask your question.
A question for on the insurance cost. How much more was it? It alluded that it had gone up. That was my only question.
It has gone up approximately $100, and it is listed as a separate item because the direction from the treasurer in the past has been to pay for it in its current fiscal year. So we listed it as a separate item so that we could include it in the July claims next month.
Okay.
Thank you.
Are there any further questions or comments on today's consent agenda?
I can report.
Yes, go ahead,
So,
Uma.
I'd like to say that I spoke with Treasurer Ward, and he had no comments on the claims.
Thank you, Uma. Then I'll be looking for a motion.
I would like to move the consent agenda.
Commissioner Gonzalez, and a second by Commissioner Ignacio. Is there any further comments or questions? Then Clerk Meadow, please do the roll call.
Okay, Commissioner Frohnberger.
Yes.
Commissioner Gonzalez.
Yes.
Commissioner Ignacio.
Yes.
Commissioner Mulhern.
Yes.
Chair Orth.
Yes.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you for that, commissioners. And with that, we move right into our workshop item, agenda number 4. Today, we're doing the Covelo Community Services District MSR SOI update workshop. And I'll turn this over to staff. Uma.
Thank you. I will say that the general manager is on the road today, but he is intending to call in for this item, so I expect him to enter in the next few minutes. Larkin, if you could please watch for him and let him in when he gets on the phone. I'd like to start out with just a brief overview of the process that we go through for these sphere of influence updates, primarily for the new commissioners. We send out a request for information as our first step, and that goes to the district general manager, and they provide information. And we also do research in our own files as well as online searches through water board and NPDES permitting pages. Once we develop an administrative draft, we provide that to the district for a technical review, and we also solicit any additional information needs at that time. We then prepare a workshop draft, and then that's what we're doing today, is presenting the draft document to the commission and the public in hopes of receiving feedback and any additional direction. Once we get that information from the workshop, we prepare a public draft document that we will take to a public hearing at the next available date. We did provide the administrative draft, and we received feedback from the general manager and incorporated that in preparation for this document before you today. This is the second municipal service review and sphere of influence update for the district. The last was in 2010. The Covelo CSD was formed in 1960 in response to contamination of private water wells within the community of Covelo. The district provides wastewater services to approximately 430 residents in the core part of Covelo. There is no public water system serving Covelo. All residences and businesses rely on private wells. I'm going to share a screen and pull up a map of the district. Okay. So there we go. So this Covelo is in the northeastern portion of the county. I'm sure everyone knows that. The other thing I wanted to show was this map to the right, and that is to show that the Round Valley Indian Reservation takes up the northwestern portion of the valley and extends out. This is a map of Covelo in generally the center of the valley, Round Valley, and the location of the Community Services District. And I'm just going to leave this up as I talk. The district updated its wastewater treatment plant last in 2008 and is currently in the process of receiving a Department of Water Resources grant through North Coast Resource Partnership to make improvements to its collection system to reduce inflow and infiltration issues. They've also applied for a California Water Board grant to replace their influent well and pumping station. They've also received a grant through the Mendocino Community Foundation of $8,000 for replacement of the ozone unit roof. They currently have a moratorium on new connections due to capacity limitations and inflow and infiltration issues. There are 4 other special districts in the Covelo area. There's the Round Valley County Water District, which strictly does conservation and watershed management activities. They have the Covelo Fire Protection District, the Covelo Cemetery District, and there's a Covelo Lighting District that is managed by the county. As noted before, the Round Valley Indian Reservation encompasses much of the northwest portion of the valley, and they do own and operate their own wastewater treatment plant just north of Covelo. In 2010, LAFCO adopted a coterminous sphere of influence, and staff is recommending affirming that coterminous sphere. I do have one more slide that just shows the location of the wastewater treatment plant that the district owns and operates right here. It's just outside the district boundaries. And on the north, the top of the photo, you can see the edge of the wastewater treatment ponds for the tribes. I want to thank Dane Downing, who is the general manager for Covelo CSD, for all of his assistance in preparing this document, and also the board secretary, Gail Cook. And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer questions, and I believe that Dane is on the phone.
Thank you, Uma. I'll open up to the commissioners for questions. This is a workshop, so there is no such thing as a bad question here, or comments on any typos or any comments at all. So I'll open it up, and please, okay, Commissioner Farnberger, would you start?
Yeah, good morning, all. I know I saw it in here, but I'm having a hard time finding it. What's the population that's actually served by the Senate or the Community Services District?
I believe it's approximately 460.
Thank you.
Okay, please raise your hand if you have a question. Go ahead, Jerry.
I just wanted to comment to staff that I really appreciate all the hyperlinks in the documents. It made it easy to go check things out as I went through the document. That was
Other commissioners, please. I have a few questions. First of all, should I refer to the data page number or the page number in the document itself? Because I have a paper copy, so I'll be stating page numbers by what's in the paper copy. Does that vary from what the commissioners have as a data page?
You state the data page and we'll call out the packet page.
Okay. On page 2-17, which in my packet is page 43, on 2.3.7 enhanced service delivery options, the statement reads, the district is the only wastewater service provider in Round Valley. And then you say outside of the RVIT. And I know the reservation indeed has its own sewer facility. Can we look at wording that a little bit differently, since indeed there are 2 sewer plants in the valley floor?
Yes, thank you. I'll make that correction. Clarification.
On page 2-19, this is just a simple comma correction. This is page 45 on mine. And that's at the very last dollar value given. I believe needs to be, the comma needs to be changed to read 300,000 for 273. Currently, the comma is in the wrong position. That's a simple correction.
Thank you.
Nice work, Donnie.
Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah. I do appreciate these. They're very informational, of course, and I hope the public, I know there are state legislators who use these documents, and I hope supervisors, when they deal with issues in each of these communities, are referencing these MSRs as well. I don't think I had, let me go through my CAVs. I would note that this district enjoys a very good grant status because it is a duck community, a disadvantaged community, and apparently is actually considered a severely disadvantaged community. Uma, can you describe the difference when they become a severely disadvantaged community?
Yes, I believe that the severe disadvantaged community comes through Department of Water Resources definitions for communities. A disadvantaged community is 80% of the median household income from the state level, and a severely disadvantaged community is 60% of the median household income at the state level.
And I believe what this, yes. Any questions on that? My comment would be, we do see a lot of grant activity through Covelo, and this is one reason they're successful in receiving these grants. I believe a duck community and certainly a severely disadvantaged community generally are able to get quite a few grants to help them in their community. And I would note that this is, Covelo is receiving quite a few grants, and in their funding, in their funds that they have available, they've been on a downward slope. They have a healthy of some millions of dollars fund, but I believe, isn't that mostly dedicated grant funding that has specific purposes?
It might be best for
Uma, can you answer that?
that might be best for Mr. Downing to respond to if he is available. But that is correct. The grant funding is allocated for a specific project and cannot be used for other items.
Mr. Downing, are you available? Is that the
Mr. Downing?
620? Yeah, go ahead, Uma.
Yeah, Mr. Downing, if you are on mute, I believe it's *6 to take yourself off mute on the phone.
There it is.
There you go.
Please speak and be heard, sir.
So basically the question to you is about your grant funding and the fact that it's dedicated to specific purposes, and your downward trend in spending that amount, and the fact you're not a balanced budget at this time. Can you address this commission on that? We're still not hearing you.
If he's not able to respond, I can follow up with him for the public hearing draft, and I will make note of that.
That would be good. I think that's a question. I see they're charging $65 per unit within their district. That's in line with what many a sewer district is charging. Certainly here in the Willits Valley. So I think it sounds very reasonable. And I would hope that they could. I also have questions about, with the moratorium in place, Covelo has experienced some burned up commercial properties. And my question would need, moving forward, are they subject to the moratorium, or can they rebuild because they were a prior customer and hook up again to the sewer system? So that would just, it seems reasonable that they would be able to, but I would just want clarification on that. And do I have any further? Okay, I think that's all of my comments. Again, that would be under the question about the enterprise services currently operating an annual net loss. And the question would be, what does the district foresee in meeting that challenge of coming up to a balanced budget, and whether they have plans to do so? Any
I will work with
other
the district on that.
Yes. I'm sorry, the Zoom does sometimes mean we speak over each other. I'm sorry when that happens. Are there any further? Yes, Mari, please.
Good morning, everybody. I have a few comments and questions, and so I printed this out. Well, actually, Kristen printed it out for me, and so I'll just go the page by page, and so it'll take a couple minutes. The first one is on page 2-12. It's the second paragraph under the description of Senate Bill 135, and that second paragraph is one sentence. And after I read it a bunch of times, read this section a bunch of times, I think I understood what it was saying. But I think it would be really helpful if that second paragraph could be restructured with some periods and to make it clear. So that was the first one. Let's see. On the On the next page, on page 2-13, there's a table that lists the CCSD Board of Directors. And one of the columns is estimated first year of service for these different board members. And I was curious, maybe Uma, why it's an estimated first year of service. How come we don't know exactly when a board member's first year of service is?
I think that can be clarified in the table. It is the first year of service. I think we had estimated there when we first sent it as an administrative draft so that we could get confirmation.
Okay, thanks. On the next page, and believe me, I don't have comments on every page. It's just a coincidence right now. Just a little typo at the top of page 2-14 above where it says public meetings. And the last line, there's a comma and it says, and was the chair at the time. And then there's of that, and that of isn't supposed to be there. It's not, and then there's a missing verb. What was the chair at the time the MSR was prepared? Anyway, it just needs to be cleaned up. Oh yeah, so the financial summary. By the way, first of all, I wanted to say Uma and I guess Larkin, whoever put this together, I think it's really great. It's really well done. It's really clear. And I meant to say that at the beginning. Like, for example, I love this summary table. It's really nice. But in the narrative that follows, each paragraph summarizes a fiscal year. And I could tell where you got the numbers for the revenues. Like, for example,
Mari, excuse me, would you state the page you're speaking to right now?
Yeah, sorry, page 2-19. So the bottom paragraph underneath the table, and it's the same on the next 3 paragraphs. It says the overall revenues, and you can look and see where the revenues are in the table. So in this case, it was 220,000. Oh no, actually, well, 942. So that's the revenues from operating revenues. And then did you take the $64 in interest income to get? In other words, I'm just not clear. They don't match in the table. And it's the same with the expenses.
Okay, we'll go through that carefully and make sure we're accurate on that.
I mean, maybe it's just a matter of putting parentheses after where it says overall and just saying, you know, it's this figure plus this figure plus this figure, so we can see how you got it. Yeah. Another typo on page 2-21, the second bullet, maintenance reserve, and it says a maintenance account in the proprietary funds to provide, I don't know what it's supposed to say. Probably funds maintenance and repair and replacement. And I think that was it. And then I just wanted to maybe talk about the findings a little bit, because that's really where it's interesting. The determinations, I mean. And I suppose we don't, since we can't speak to the manager, the general manager right now, it's not working. Maybe Uma, you could talk about what impact your report out, the commission's, you know, the production of this MSR SOI update will have. I mean, there's a lot, not a ton, but there's things to be concerned about for the district and services for the residents and the impact on potential growth. I mean, they can't grow because of the problems and they're operating at a deficit. And what does our report do for them? And I guess it's along the lines of Chair Orth's question too. You know, I thought the website comment was also really important, that people can't look and see what's going on. So, Uma, thanks.
Sure. Thank you. Some of these items we will put in a tickler file where we will follow up on them in a period of time. In the past, when there have been findings that have been of concern to the commission, we will put them in the commission will direct staff to put them in a file and follow up in a year. And the commission has that discretion. They can ask for a report within a year or within a specific time frame to follow up again on those items. The other thing we can do is provide some resources to the district, in particular for the website compliance component, because that is I can't remember, the SB 929 or something like that, that speaks to the compliance requirements for local agency websites. So those are things that we can work with them on and follow up on them with them on. The other thing is that state legislators, as Chair Orth noted, do look at these reports as well as local agencies, the county. Look at these reports when there is development proposed in an area. One example I can think of is that the Covelo area started a Round Valley Municipal Advisory Committee. I think it was a year or two ago. And they are working on a number of issues. And I know that fire hydrants is one issue that they are working on. So, through that process, they may start looking at the special districts in the area and who might be able to provide service. So when that happens, they will look to the municipal service review for that agency to see where they might be able to find support for that service provision.
Mo, you had a question? Your hand's up.
I had a couple of things, but it didn't sound like Uma was quite done with those questions, Mari's questions.
Did I answer the question that you had, Commissioner Roden? Okay, thank you.
Okay, Mo.
Thank you. So I did check the website, and it looks like the minutes are fairly up to date for this year. I mean, at least they're trying. So I think that's great to provide more accountability and transparency. So Covelo, much like all of Mendocino County, has seemingly random zoning conditions. If you look on page 51 and you look at the map, it's residential and then commercial, and it's just all over the place. Are there any plans to create some consistency around that, or are they pretty happy with the way that that's working?
Are you speaking to the zoning for the area or the development patterns?
Yes, yeah.
I have not been attending the Round Valley MAC, the RV MAC meetings, but I believe that that's something that they might look into, that Municipal Advisory Committee. I will say that one issue in the valley in general is accurate population numbers, and this is something that we put some thought into for this municipal service review. The valley is probably a much higher population than is reflected in the census data. And I think we did put a note in there to that effect, but that is something to keep in mind, that and it probably does affect the sewer capacity for the district, but there's not really a way to quantify what that population is. And I wish Jane were able to speak to that a little bit, but I just wanted to note that for the commission. The other thing to note is that they are in the process of completing their 2019-20 audit, and that is expected within the next few weeks. So we hope to have that for the public workshop draft. I mean, the public.
Okay, further
Thank you.
questions?
Yeah, I just had one. I just wanted to thank staff for the thoroughness of the report, and I really appreciate all of the references to the general plan, and I've asked that County Board of Supervisors agendas also include references. So I appreciate that. It's important that we're always checking back in with that whenever we move forward with these important community planning items. So thank you.
And thank you for your question about zoning, as the county is in charge of the zoning map. So thank you for your attention. I did skip over a question I had going back to page 3.5, which is 72 in my packet. The district does not provide any out of agency services, but on page 220, 46 in my packet, down near the bottom, last bullet point, it says resolution 2020-06, establishing the septic disposal fee and after hours gate fee for all septic haulers. And I know this is common for sewer plants to accept the hauling from area septic tanks outside of their district boundaries. And so I think that needs to be clarified. And I think that's probably partially part of what's under their other income. And maybe that can be broken out just to show how important that service can be to the surrounding community. Any further questions from commissioners? Yes, go ahead, Jerry.
Uma, a question, and maybe you know the answer, or is it just a matter of, I noticed it says they have a hard time getting directors. Is it kind of like the cemetery districts? Nobody wants to volunteer? Is that the situation?
Not exactly sure the reason. I know they do publicize the vacancies, and can be a transient population, and I think that there are a lot of property owners, especially the commercial areas, that are not residents of the town. They don't live within the district boundaries, which makes them, of course, ineligible to serve on the board. So I think there's a number of reasons why, and it's a very rural area, of course. I know they have struggled to fill their board vacancies.
I would say generally, when you look at forming an advisory committee for an area, that can bring forward potential directors. And I believe the Board of Supervisors has the capability of appointing unfilled seats if the district board does not have candidates. They could also seek candidates after a certain amount of days when the vacancies occur. These are long-term vacancies, so maybe that's something the area supervisor should be focused on as well. And that would be Supervisor Haschek, who is our alternate here. So maybe Uma, you could make him aware of that deficiency. Any further questions from commissioners for this workshop? And does council have any comments to make? You're muted.
No, I don't.
Thank you. Are we ready to conclude this workshop? And staff, yes, go ahead.
Input? You might request public input.
Thank you so much. Are there public in the wings ready to speak to this matter? Okay, I was counting on you earlier, and I didn't see any new people come in. Is 6208, is that where we think General Manager Downing would be? The phone number 6208?
I believe so.
Okay, because we haven't heard from him.
Yeah, it must be muted on two ends there.
Okay. So we're going to put that down to technical. I see he just muted himself, unmuted. General Manager Downing, can you hear us? And we have not been able to hear you. All right, well, staff will certainly be in contact with you for any questions that arose today. And with that, there is no further public comment coming forward. So we will close the workshop and move on to our matters for discussion and possible action, of which there are no action items today. And so we can move right to information and report items, agenda number 6, and I'll turn this over to staff for 7A.
Thank you.
Yes, Scott.
I just noticed on our agenda, it says item 6, but they're all subtitled 7A, 7B, 7C. So we probably ought to correct that at some point.
Oh, yes.
I missed that earlier. Thank you, Chair.
So
Thank you.
let's go to 6A.
Thank you for that correction. I have a few items to report on. I wanted to follow up a little bit on the City of Pismo Beach versus the San Luis Obispo LAFCO case that we discussed earlier this year. I'll invite our legal counsel, Scott Brown, to jump in. I'll give a little summary here. The San Luis Obispo LAFCO requested and CALAFCO agreed to file an amicus letter to the state Supreme Court to consider the appeal request. And as a reminder, this is the case that decided that the LAFCO did not have authority to require indemnification agreements on applications. The state Supreme Court denied the petition for review of the case, as well as a request for depublication of the opinion. The matter is being referred to the CALAFCO Legislative Committee and the board for a potential legislative fix for next year. San Luis Obispo LAFCO and the Special District Risk Management Authority, SDRMA, were jointly party to this case and are considering administrative options available to them. So it appears that the SDRMA wants to proceed down that path, and the San Luis Obispo Commission is considering those options. CALAFCO has said that if requested by the San Luis Obispo LAFCO, that they will recommend to the CALAFCO board to support another amicus brief, this time to the California Supreme Court. So for now, basically it's up to each LAFCO to discuss with their legal counsels to determine how best to continue processing the applications until the matter is resolved. And as a reminder, this commission adopted the voluntary indemnification agreement approach, which we have put on our website and provided to potential applicants. Scott, do you have anything you want to add to that?
Well, I'm a little confused. I don't think there is any possible further appeal to the California Supreme Court. They've made their decision. So I'm not sure what proceeding the SDRMA is referring to.
That was a summary that was provided by CALAFCO. So I was sharing that. I'm not sure the specifics on the SDRMA, so that's good to know.
I would just say in summary, right now we're going to have to live with this decision, and knowing the pace of legislative action, we probably cannot anticipate any relief for at least a year, if not 2 years.
Okay. Any questions? Commissioners? Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Mulhern.
So, Mr. Brown, does that mean we won't hear for a year or two what the court ruling would be, and that we could move forward with making our own decision on those items? Is that what you meant by that?
No, the court has spoken, and it is a final decision. So it is the law of the land for now.
What did you mean by relief? You said we wouldn't expect any relief for a year or two.
Well, unfortunately, I'm relating to something Uma read, which is very unclear from CalAFCO. And right now, as far as I know, there's no further appeal of the judicial decision. And so therefore, I don't know what other proceeding SDRMA was referring to. The only proceeding relief available to us now is through the legislature. And I mean, it's very clear from the court that if the statute had been clear, they could have made a different decision. So we have to make the statute clear so that it will support LAFCO's ability to seek indemnification. I think that that's likely to be passed, but it just takes time.
And I believe Uma stated that CalAFCO has moved this to their legislative committee. Is that correct? For that very purpose?
Yes.
So that's the appropriate step as stated for them to take. It's a lobbying issue again.
Yes, if any of you have connections in the state legislature, let us know.
Okay. Are there any further questions on this issue on 6A? Then we'll move to 6B, Countywide Planning Activities Report, Uma.
Chair Orth, I have a few more items under the Executive Officer's report.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, please.
Thank you. I wanted to report that there's been some discussion on the CalAFCO Executive Officer listserv on whether LAFCO should be including a review or determinations regarding cybersecurity for utility purveyors. The recent cyber attacks on a number of special districts and utilities across the nation has brought this question forward on the listserv, specifically water, wastewater, and power providers. So the question is, should LAFCOs be taking a look at security measures in place by an agency with respect to cybersecurity protection from attack and from hacking? This will likely be discussed at the CalAFCO conference, so I just don't have any more information at this time, just that question is being put forward. We've also had some discussions with the Mendocino City CSD about providing water to residents in time of this drought emergency. We did hold a number of discussions at the staff level. And since they've already been providing water to a number of residences from their existing well and storage tank, we have taken the stance that they can include additional residences during this declared emergency. No new infrastructure for long-term water services are proposed with this. It is simply using their existing storage tank to provide water as needed to residences with dry wells.
Uma, before you move on that, I know we had a discussion due to the declared drought emergency that this would be something that might come up in the immediate future. Specifically, there's a proposal, and Jerry, you can talk to this if necessary, that there's a proposal to haul water by rail cars from the city of Willits to the coast, to Fort Bragg specifically, which then provides water hauling to other agencies within Mendocino County due to the drought emergency. And Jerry, would you like to speak to that for a moment, just to let us know where the city is on that issue at the moment?
It's my understanding that the staff is still exploring the issue with the, what's this, Fort Bragg, but I don't know if they're the ultimately intended. But I think that's all I've got at the moment.
And so will there be a LAFCO? I'll go to Commissioner Hornberger. Go ahead.
Go ahead. If you're still in the middle of something, that's fine.
No, I was just going to say that there might be a LAFCO role in that for, again, emergency response purposes because of the declared drought. And there might be a need for a a policy to address the ongoing emergency as to how we respond, because this is an immediate, I know that listening to Commissioner McGortney, he said some of the coastal water districts are facing serious issues within the next 60 days. So go ahead with your comment, Commissioner.
So, thank you. How are these customers getting water? Are they doing truck bridges, or were they previously connected, or are they hauling it themselves, or how is this working if it's not adding any infrastructure or replacing any infrastructure?
My understanding is that they are hauling water from the existing well and storage tank. And the district is looking at various options. One of them was to bring in some temporary water tanks to provide so that residents could come to the water tanks to get water. So again, no additional permanent water tanks, no actual, they have the ability to provide water services, but they are as a latent power, but they do not have any water storage or supply or infrastructure.
Okay. And then the other question is, and you know, if you don't know the answer, it's fine. How are they determining who actually has the need? Are they just going by, you know, hey, my well's low, or hey, my well is empty, or are they actually having to provide some sort of documentation?
I do not know. I would have to follow up on that question.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead with your report again, Uma. Sorry for the interruption, and we can speak further on the emergency and commissioner reports.
Sure. I just wanted to mention that the County Board of Supervisors was considering waiving residential permitting requirements for the placement of 5,000-gallon storage tanks to encourage folks to store water during this time. So I'm, you know, one of our, well, Commissioner Mulhern might have more information, but I just wanted to bring that forward as to underscore the severity of the water situation in Mendocino County, and in particular that these small districts are facing. I just wanted to give a brief update on the items that we discussed at our last, or that we delayed at our last meeting. We are speaking with City of Ukiah staff and Ukiah Valley Sanitation District staff in how best to move forward with the sphere of influence updates, and also to do a concurrent rolling forward with our sphere policies that have been on hold for a number of months. So that is taking place, and those discussions are happening. I have been keeping in touch with Commissioner Mulhern, who is the chair for the Policies and Procedures Committee, and we'll be putting forward a tentative plan for how to move those things forward. Sage San Giacomo, the city manager, was on vacation for a little bit this past month, so we haven't been able to touch bases in the last week or so. And finally, just wanted to report that our office is open for regular office hours Tuesdays and Friday mornings from 9 to 1, I believe. And we are doing office hours by appointment. We have completed our transition from Pacific Internet, which has been on our list of things to do for over a year now. We did receive internet, domain hosting, email accounts, and phone service through Pacific Internet, but we had a number of issues and it was inconsistent and unreliable. So we have moved to Comcast for internet and have different providers for emails and domain hosting, but that is complete. We have noted some glitches in our email system, so apologies to Commissioner Roden in particular. I know she was trying to reach me and wasn't able to, so we are working on that. If you have reached out to me over the last couple of weeks and haven't received a response, please try again or give me a call. I think that's all we have at this time for the Executive Officer's report.
Thank you, Uma. Any questions? Okay, moving on then, we'll go to, I think we're on 6B now, countywide planning activities report. Or
We
was
don't
that-
have a
okay.
report for this item this month. Thank you.
Have we gone to 6C then? Do we have correspondence to report on?
No correspondence to report.
And 6D is the executive officer's report, and you consider you just gave that, correct?
That's correct. My apologies. Would you like me to give 6A this time? Plan.
The work planning, current and future proposals. Yes, go ahead.
Sorry about that. I got excited and moved on. Yes, so we have a number of current applications. We have the City of Ukiah detachment of Ukiah Valley Sanitation District areas. If you recall, there was an appeal on that filed by the city, and the city has agreed to kind of place that on temporary hold for now, so that we can move forward with some of these other items and come up with a plan to move all forward at the same time. We still have an incomplete application for the City of Ukiah's annexation of city-owned properties, so we're still waiting for some information from the city on that. We have received a application from the Ukiah Valley Fire District for annexation of the City of Ukiah. It is a partial application, which is something that staff encouraged so that we could get the tax share negotiation process started. We did initiate that with the county. The notice of filing, which initiates the tax share agreement process, was distributed to the county in early July, and we are working through the list of APNs to make sure we have an accurate list for that process to get underway. We have a couple of pre-applications that are still on file. We have the City of Ukiah's pre-application for the annexation of areas north of the city. There's been no movement on that for a number of months now. Similarly, the Millview County Water District pre-application for annexation of the Masonite properties has also been quiet for a number of months. We still have the potential future proposal for the Ukiah's annexation of the Western Hills area. We did provide comments and helped provide some language for the draft mitigated negative declaration back in May, and we have not heard anything further on that at this time. As far as the work plan goes, we still have the City of Ukiah and the Sanitation District areas that are jurisdictions that we are trying to gain some traction on getting that rolling. We have done some initial outreach to the county for CSA 3. We are working with the GIS department to come up with a current map of the CSA 3, which there was not one. So we have received a draft of that, and we're working through our questions and comments on that. We have moved forward with the Covelo CSD, and we hope to bring that to public hearing. There wasn't time to notice it for August, so we'll be looking at September for a public hearing on that one. And then we are working on the administrative draft of the Ukiah Valley Fire District MSR, and the application from the Fire District for annexation of the City of Ukiah includes a sphere amendment. So we'll be dovetailing those two projects together and tracking them concurrently. And that's all the updates I have on that, unless there's questions.
Open to questions, commissioners? Appears to be none, Uma. So we'll move on to, have any of our committees met and need to report at this time?
No committee reports for July.
Thank you. Go ahead and tell us all about CalAFCO business and their legislative report, Uma.
I believe we're on 6F, Commissioner Reports.
So we are. Sorry. Commissioners, discussion items, any reports from commissioners, just raise your hand and we'll call on you. Okay, well, I'll just report that Brook Trails CSD has received a planning grant for recycled water. And it would be our intention to look at recycling to the point of domestic use. We see it as a real potential to avoid very expensive dam reconstruction programs. We have a very clean sewage flow because we lack the kind of commercial operations the cities have, although even they can, of course, treat sewage to the point of domestic use under current technology. And the state seems to be very interested in helping sewer districts become water purveyors, such as Ukiah is doing now, but even an uptick and providing funds to go to the domestic use of recycled water. So I think this is a great potential and focus for the state to have, given the drought and the water supply issues. So I just wanted to make a note of that. And I'll ask the city of Willits rep whether they're looking into a recycling program themselves for their the joint plant.
I have not heard of it at this point, but I haven't asked that question.
Okay. There's again, I'll just state there's a lot of state money probably going to be focusing on that in the current budget year that they're going through. And so there are grants available to begin planning for that. And I think it's a great potential resource. Training the public to accept it will be the hurdle, I'm sure. Any other commissioners wish to report on activities in their districts? Go ahead, Mari. And cities.
Sure. When you mentioned recycled water, it reminded me of a report that I received at our last city council meeting for Ukiah. You know, Ukiah has a recycled water system, and it's taken a huge load off of the demands on water coming from the Lake Mendocino. And that what I wrote down was that 3 times as much recycled water as surface water. So 3 times the amount of recycled water as compared to surface water has been distributed by the city. And I think it's a monumental savings during this drought, you know, savings of our precious, you know, water. So I just wanted to let people know what we were doing in that regard.
Thank you. And I know the city of Ukiah has been quite the leader in this, and it's really front page news to those without that resource at this time. So thank you, city of Ukiah, for moving forward on those programs. And do you know whether you're looking at taking it the next step and to be able to provide it as domestic water?
No, I think that's a long way off. But what the city is doing is planning on expanding the reach of the recycled water so we can water irrigate the golf course and, you know, other large parks. So that will, you know, take even more relief. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Mari. And those are called purple pipe districts, are they not? No. Well, now we'll go to, is there no more commissioner reports? Okay.
Chair Orth?
Yes.
Commissioner Wilson, did you want to mention the radio show?
Yes. Please do.
Okay. Did you say Roden? Yeah. You said Roden, or did you say Orth?
I said Commissioner Roden.
Yeah. Tomorrow on KZYX at 9 o'clock, I'm going to host an hour-long radio show called Citizen U, and I'm going to interview Uma, and we're going to talk about what is LAFCO for the general public, so people can understand what it is, why it exists, and how it impacts their lives or their communities anyway. So thanks, Uma.
And thanks to both of you. That's certainly going to be a listen for our commissioners, I hope. I know some will be in meetings, but I believe they have a web presence where you can go back in time and listen to such shows. And maybe after the show, Uma, you could provide a link to it. The KZYX website where that recording would exist.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Now, are you prepared, Uma, to tell us all about CALAFCO, business in their legislative report?
Finally. Sure. There's a number of items in your packet from the CALAFCO. Wanted to note that the annual conference is going to be October 6th through 8th in Newport Beach. I believe the early registration is at the end of August. So early registration saves somewhere just under $100, I think. So it would be great if folks want to think about that and then make a decision and maybe let us know at the next, we'll bring it up again at the August 2nd meeting and maybe get a count of who is intending to go. I think we have a budget for 3 or 4 commissioners, and I will send out that confirmation along with the flyer. CALAFCO also is taking nominations for its board of directors. There are 2 seats, a county seat and a special district seat for the northern region. So if anyone would like to be nominated or make a nomination from our area, from our county, please let me know and we'll work through that packet. The CALAFCO legislative report is in your packet. There's also a CALAFCO University flyer for a series of workshops on fire services called Fire 2021. I don't have the dates offhand. I believe it starts at the end of this month and it will be run for 3 weeks, a few hours each week. It should be really interesting. We as staff, myself and Larkin, will both be participating in that, in those webinars. And Pamela Miller did announce again, this was the second time she's announced retirement. She announced retirement, I think it was the end of 2020 or beginning of 2021. And with the pandemic, she agreed to stay on for the rest of this year, and so she will be retiring at the end of the year, and there's a current recruitment going on for her replacement. I think that's all I have for the CALAFCO updates, unless there's any questions.
Any questions, commissioners? Straw poll, just quickly. Commissioners who are thinking of attending the annual conference, are there any of you? Okay, Mo, just raise your hand so we get an idea. I have yet to fully consider yet.
What are the dates again?
October 6th through 8th.
And we usually advise new commissioners, it's a good way to get going with LAFCO and answer questions and meet other commissioners and have those side-by-side conversations that you will definitely learn from besides the actual workshops. So we do recommend new commissioners where possible to attend. Okay, there being no further discussion, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn, and our next meeting will be August 2nd.
So moved.
Thank you, Jerry. You're keeping your role intact here. And with that, Uma, thank you, and commissioners, thank you, and staff, great work. Also, again, I would say the Covelo MSR draft is excellent, and thank you so much for providing it today, and look forward to the public hearing.
Thank you.
And please all stay cool.